We represent Juniata College in central Pennsylvania.
All right. What's the project that you've been working on?
So Jim is a uh, expert. You want to call yourself an expert? He's a historian of specializes in U.S. history in the southern states, and is a kind of social historian of food on a much bigger scale, but also in the South. And this dates back to your master's and PhD, working on lowland agriculture and the history of its development. So he's the book came out when? When did you kind
2010.
of? And so in 2010, this book came out and has an affiliated website and exists in a networked culture of exchanges between a bunch of different places. So, and my area is is really computational simulations of cultural change over periods of time, evolution of social systems in different ways. So I approached Jim to say whether or not he could operationalize the history, or he had resources to do it in a computational simulation. Now, that would benefit me, but we were also looking for ways to benefit Jim, and maybe you want to talk about the ways in which it benefits you and your webpage.
So in recent years, I'd sort of neglected the website. You know, it was out there, it's doing its thing. People read it, people use it, find it helpful apparently. But I haven't been adding much content, haven't even followed up and worried about preservation, which is certainly one of the things that we have been thinking about and been sort of educated more on here at ILiADS. But I'd had some notions, some dreams maybe of ways to enhance it, and the project we're working on, ultimately, a lot of it will live on this website. It will enrich it. It will allow the site to be, which was interactive in certain ways already and geographical in its orientation, but it's going to be much richer, a kind of stronger sort of GIS presence on it, and it's going to have this wonderful kind of model and the potential for school kids to kind of experience the variables in life for so many people in the coastal regions of Georgia and South Carolina as they try to make the rice industry go along between the 60 or so years after the Civil War.
Excellent. So has your experience at ILiADS been helpful in finding new ways that you could improve the project? Has there been a productive dialogue between you and your experts? Are there things ILiADS could improve on in subsequent years?
Well, as a sort of example, just minutes ago, we were trying to solve a little problem that we had bumped up against in the GIS, and both the GIS expert and our sort of our guru who works with us all week were both in here, and together they helped us figure out how to solve that in a matter of a few minutes, which probably could have eaten up the whole morning, right? And so it greatly sped up the time that we would have had to invest. And I think we end up in a completely different place at the end of this week than we would have comparably if we had just met at our home institution.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly going to reinforce the access to experts for interventions on a lot of different programming things. I think one of the more interesting issues was I spoke with the gaming expert, and he met with us early on. And one of the outcomes from that is thinking about game building in software called Unity as opposed to my default system, which was a program called Game Maker. And the flexibility, the utility, probably the long-term viability of products from Unity and its use in a bunch of different platforms. Unity was a new concept for me that I hadn't heard. I think we also, coming out of this, was that we put the game making element a little bit more to the side. It was part of our original proposal, and everything we've been doing here is with an eye toward building an educational game for kids. But we've put that to the side for the time being, and we're thinking about building precursors to it in analog formats like card games and board games before we invest a serious amount of time in developing a polished digital version of it.
All right. So how do you kind of keep the momentum going after ILiADS? Does Juniata have a good infrastructure for DH work? Are there areas that you can improve? Has ILiADS given you tools to help improve?
Well, I think one of the DH is still, I think, in its infancy at Juniata. I would say. I mean, Don has been the complete driving force behind DH there, and so in many ways, this project for us is both. It has its own specific goals, but a kind of another goal at the sort of 20,000 foot level for this is it allows us to demonstrate to other people, both in the humanities and in the administration at Juniata, that we're capable, not just us, but institutionally, we're capable of doing projects. We'll have student help in the fall, and I think it's a sort of model in its own right of where we might head. So I think it helps us hopefully propel DH at our institution.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think one of the more interesting prospects is where ILiADS itself is going to go after this session or iteration of it, and discussions of consortial relationships. Juniata, like a lot of liberal arts institutions, are challenged to try to meet the demands of the larger educational ecology and providing the infrastructure to support all of those things. And there are lots of competitions about the directions. So liberal arts colleges, I don't think, have the ability to be all things to all people, and so they need to specialize a little bit. And I think in particular, thinking about ways to network the localized specializations into a consortium of digital humanities agendas and projects at other small liberal arts colleges so that they complement and provide greater access to resources, expertise, and encouragement in a network of liberal arts colleges is extremely useful for us. Extremely useful. And the nice thing about ILiADS is it plops you right down for a week of intensive work in a universe of liberal arts colleges, and you get to watch, be amazed, and applaud the projects they're working on.
All right. I think that's a good note to wrap up on, unless you have other closing remarks that you want preserved for posterity. Yeah,
so it's day 4, and one impact of ILiADS on me is that I'm whooped. It is an intensive week of work, and so I feel like I've been pushed to my limits, and we're one day away from completing, and it's been a little bit like digital whitewater rafting. It was amazing and thrilling, and I just want to leave it all on the field by tomorrow. And so I think the end of the rafting trip is almost in sight, and it's going to take a few days to recuperate.
Let's try not to capsize before then.
Exactly.